Have you ever seen something that just felt off? Not scary in a traditional way, but more like deeply unsettling? Well, in 2013, security footage from a hotel showed a girl, Elisa Lam, getting into an elevator and never getting off. You've probably seen the clip, but you might not know the complex story behind it. You're always haunted by the idea that you're wasting your life. A quote from her Tumblr. Welcome to Make You Scream, the podcast where the eerie and the unsettling combine. I'm Nikki, your host, and today we're taking a look at some of the most terrifying experiences of the elevator game, including that of Elisa Lam. We're going to deep dive into her case and explore the ritual that you should probably never try yourself. Again, and I'm going to keep saying it, don't play the elevator game. Let's start with a little bit about Elisa Lam. So Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old college student from Vancouver traveling to the West Coast to visit the lovely state of California. Now everyone knows California can be quite expensive, whether you're living there or visiting. You try to find workarounds that make things cheaper. Now Elisa Lam found this cheap hotel stay at none other than the Cecil Hotel. If you're in the paranormal community, you know how intense the lore surrounding the Cecil Hotel is. I'm not saying that it attracted serial killers, but I'm saying if I had a nickel for every serial killer that stayed at the Cecil Hotel, I'd have at least two, and that's concerning. Now, it's based in downtown Los Angeles, right next to Skid Row, which has a dark and scary past and probably a dark and scary future. It not only houses a lot of gangs, but also the homeless population that has continued to grow in Los Angeles. Actually, they go as far to even bus all of the homeless people to the street right next to the Cecil Hotel and try to get them to stay over there, so that everyone can kind of turn a blind eye to what's going on in downtown Los Angeles. Now, there's even rumors that the gang members of that area have started to recruit the homeless population in exchange for drugs to hide their violent criminals that are hiding from the law. So, even in this day and age, let's not stay at the Cecil Hotel. And this is one of those warnings that it's not a joke. Like, some of the warnings I tell you guys, don't play Bloody Mary. Okay, whatever if you play Bloody Mary, but actually do not stay anywhere near the Cecil Hotel. And if you go down there, please be careful. All right, back to the story and Elisa Lam. On January 26, 2013, Elisa Lam checked into the Cecil Hotel, and she didn't check out. On February 14th, just a few weeks later, the LAPD released this footage that I'm about to show you. If you guys are just listening, I'll describe it for you. But if you want to go over to my YouTube channel, you can see the footage for yourself and some other photos that I might share and some Tumblr posts from Elisa Lam. Anyways, the LAPD released the footage from one of the hotel's elevators, timestamped February 1st. So this is supposedly where Elisa Lam is February 1st, if the cameras are correctly dated, which we all know that doesn't always happen. Elisa is wearing a red hoodie, black shorts, and sandals. She enters the elevator and starts pressing several floor buttons. She starts looking like she might be possibly agitated, and she's peeking in and out of the hallway. It has unsettling vibes. She steps in and out multiple times, makes a few unusual hand gestures that we can't really decipher, and the elevator door, oddly enough, stays open for several minutes. So here's the facts about the video you might not have heard before. The LAPD confirmed the video was edited, the timestamp skips, and at least 53 seconds of the footage are missing. They have not said why. Possibly it could be someone else gets in and out of the elevator and they didn't want them to be doxxed. I can't think of any other reason why the footage would be tampered unless it was tampered by the person who is the reason Elisa Lam is no longer here. Elisa Lam was last seen by hotel staff on January 31st, which is interesting because the elevator footage was timestamped February 1st. So you're telling me nobody saw her the entire day of February 1st. And number 3, her behavior in the footage sparked widespread speculation and concern. If you were anywhere on the internet in 2013, you heard about Elisa Lam. Now, Elisa Lam was your average girlie. She was on Tumblr. She posted so many Tumblr posts. She was actively scheduling her posts. She scheduled so far ahead that when she passed away, her Tumblr was still posting. I wish I was that consistent. If I disappear, do not expect me to keep posting because I'm behind. I'm always behind. Now, on her Tumblr, she posted things like her struggle with mental health, her daily life, things she wanted to do. The typical Tumblr girly. One thing she posted was, I wish I could live a day without worry. I'm not okay, and I haven't been okay for a while. Now, she had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. She was prescribed Wellbutrin, Lamictal, Seroquel, and Effexor, and I'm probably butchering all of those pronunciations. She went on a solo trip to California. Elisa Lam was very close with her family. She called them every single day of her trip, and her parents immediately got worried when she didn't call after the 31st. On February 1st, she didn't call her parents. They're like, oh my God, we need to call the police because our daughter is always in contact with us. So a bookstore manager near the hotel saw her that day, described her as cheerful and talkative, and he was one of the last people to see her alive. Now let's get to the discoveries and theories. And I'm gonna read a lot of this because I don't want to mess up the facts. On February 19th, 2013, guests at the Cecil Hotel began complaining about low water pressure, a strange taste, and discoloration. Hotel maintenance worker Santiago Lopez discovered when he checked one of the rooftop water tanks Elisa Lam's body floating in it. The official autopsy report cause of death was accidental drowning. No evidence of physical trauma, assault, or suicide. Her clothes were found in the tank, separate from her body. Toxicology revealed subtherapeutic levels of her prescribed medications. No illegal drugs or alcohol was detected, and her phone was never found. Accidental drowning seems really weird. I have friends that are wild enough to go try to swim in a hotel water tank. I really do. But without their phone, by themselves, removing their own clothes, I don't know about that one. Anyways, let's talk about some of the popular theories, especially the paranormal, because that's what we're here about. This is scary stories that will make you scream, not scary stories that will make you cry. And the Elisa Lam story is very, very, very sad. I feel like reading her Tumblr post, we could have been friends. You know what I mean? So the paranormal hypothesis is, was she playing the elevator game? And this went so viral in 2013, there was no other thought in anyone's mind. This girl had played the elevator game, and that's how she ended up in the water tower. People were convinced of this. Now, what is the elevator game? So, the elevator game originated in South Korea, and then it later spread to forums like Naver and Reddit. And a lot of people learned about it originally from a Reddit story. The elevator game. It's still up. You can still read it. I'll link it in the description below. Now, the goal of the elevator game is supposedly you can enter your own dimension where you can do anything you want, and you're the only person in the entire world, which is kind of cool, as long as you could get back, because at some point you would get so bored of being alone. I don't know. I would. Would you? I would. You have to go to a building that has at least 10 floors, and you need to press the buttons in a certain sequential order. The order goes 4, 2, 6, 2, 10, 5. And then a woman may enter on the 5th floor. Don't speak to her, don't talk to her, don't look at her, and definitely don't follow her. Then you press 1, and if the elevator goes to the 10th floor, you've succeeded. When you walk out of the elevator, you'll be on your own, in your own little world, in your own new dimension. That's pretty cool. However, if you look at the woman, horrifying things will happen. Don't look at the woman. Don't talk to her. Nothing. Act like that woman does not exist. Do not engage. Do not engage with the woman in the elevator who gets on the 5th floor. So, supposedly, Elisa Lam did get on the elevator, and she did talk to the woman on the 5th floor because a lot of people were watching the footage. Ooh, I have chills. A lot of people were watching the footage and they were thinking, she pressed the elevator buttons in a bunch of random order. She pressed a bunch of elevator buttons. Why would she do that? They thought maybe, Reddit, Tumblr, all those websites are kind of similar. She had found the elevator game. She pressed all the buttons in the order, supposedly. And then we see her peeking out of the elevator. And also she looks at some point that she's talking to someone and she's doing these weird hand symbols. And that's when people think that she's talking to the lady on the 5th floor, but we can't see the lady on the 5th floor. However, it was verified by the police, again, that the footage had been tampered with. It had been changed, at least by the police or by someone else. So it might look weirder than it actually is because the video's been altered. The one thing that internet sleuths, detectives, elevator engineers can't seem to figure out is the odd amount of time that the elevator door stays open. The elevator didn't stop working, the elevator didn't break that day, but there is a prolonged period of time that that elevator door just stayed open. People find that to be weird. There is no confirmed evidence that Elisa knew or attempted this ritual, but the video's similarity to the game fueled widespread rumors and myths. Now let's talk about the Cecil Hotel itself's dark history. A lot of people think that the Cecil Hotel is not only haunted, but it is a dark portal. There are people that will not even go on that street, and you probably shouldn't, and that will not even go near there. The Cecil Hotel was built in 1924 and basically continuously saw tragedy from there on out. Numerous suicides, violent incidents, mysterious deaths. Richard Ramirez, aka the Night Stalker, America's sweetheart serial killer that everyone fell in love with. Please don't fall in love with a serial killer. Lived on the 14th floor in 1985. And then also Jack Unterweger, Australian turned American serial killer, stayed there in 1991. Richard Ramirez even dumped like bloody clothes in the back alley. The history on that is pretty insane, and let me know if you guys want another podcast just about those two serial killers, because there's a lot of coincidences surrounding those two. There's even alleged connections to the Black Dahlia case, and if you know that case, I actually did an investigation trying to talk to the ghost of the Black Dahlia, and that was pretty interesting. We got some possibly new information that does actually seem to connect to the case. Of course, can't ever confirm if the ghost is the actual person that you're talking to, because ghosts can lie, but it did really feel like she was there. So if you want to check that out, that's on my other YouTube channel called Got Ghost. From a psychological perspective on the Elisa Lam case and the Cecil Hotel and the haunting, bipolar disorder can lead to manic episodes. And if she's inconsistent with her medication, she could be having hallucinations. But through a paranormal lens, I've not been on medication, and I've seen things that literally don't make any sense. Shadow men, elementals, things that other people have also seen. So unless it's mass hysteria, we're actually seeing stuff. This could be a murder investigation. Someone could have killed Elisa Lam. This could have been a suicide. Who's to say it also couldn't have been paranormal? She could have seen a ghost in the elevator that day. Maybe it wasn't the elevator game, but she could have seen something. There's a quote from Reddit. I'm not saying it's a ghost. I'm saying we need answers, and sometimes we reach for the strange to explain the tragic. Now, I will say, I do want to give a misinformation alert. There's been a lot of doctored videos out there, clickbait theories, and online sleuthing that have really muddied the truth around the Elisa Lam case. There were even some inconsistencies in the Netflix documentary that they released. Elisa Lam was a real person, it was a real tragedy, and not just a viral mystery. I think it's important to remember Elisa Lam. Anything could happen to any one of us, especially when we're doing things like paranormal investigations. We don't know what we're messing with. And, you know, it is dangerous for a woman to go vacation somewhere alone. And she knew that. We know she knew that because she was calling her parents every day to make sure that they knew she was safe. As a woman in this world, you know, it can be scary. Every single day is a risk. Whether you are traveling to California and staying in a sketchy hotel, or you're just getting in the car and driving to work, you never know what's going to happen. And there are mystical and magical and terrifying and dangerous things out there. And sometimes you just don't know which one you're gonna get. Make sure you guys subscribe and follow along for new paranormal stories and deep dives into the unexplained and the unfamiliar. I'm your host, Nikki Baber, and this is Scary Stories That Will Make You Scream. We also are taking personal stories, and we will be reading those personal stories once a month. So if you want to submit those, check out the email in my description. That's it for tonight's deep dive into the unknown. We release a new podcast every single Monday, so lock your doors, check your mirrors, and remember, some stories stay with you. Until next time, stay curious, and maybe don't press that elevator button alone.